My name is Keith Magnus. I'm the director and training director for counseling and consultation services at Butler University's counseling center on their campus. I got interested in psychology and inspired to do something in mental health actually in high school pretty early on. I went to college as a psychology major. The main interest really was wanting to be helpful to people versus that was consistent with my values versus making things or selling things or things people do for careers. Initially I was thinking maybe I want to teach or be a professor, and I liked doing those things, but sitting with people doing therapy really inspired me to go that route after school and be a clinician. My primary job is as a clinician. I think a real benefit to working in the mental health field is the feeling of making a positive impact or doing something that feels like it has a lot of value. So I think a lot of people go to jobs and maybe they like what they do, but at the end of the day they question, like, am I adding value, or is this consistent with my values, or am I making a difference? Those kinds of questions. This profession allows me to answer that very affirmatively. Like, I feel like I'm making a difference, that it's consistent with my values. And I think a lot of people are looking for like meaning and purpose in their jobs. And the longer I do it, the more I think meaningful it is for me to actually find that in my work. Early on, maybe you're just looking for a paycheck or do what you do. But yeah, later in life, you start to reflect on, like, well, how am I spending my time professionally? And mental health as a profession, I think you can very, very easily feel like, yeah, you're making a really positive impact in people's lives. My pathway to being a psychologist was starting in an undergrad, being a psychology major. I, again, thought maybe I would teach or do research, and so got some of that experience as an undergraduate. You can obviously you can't do much with an undergraduate degree in psychology, so to be a clinician, you need a master's degree or a doctoral degree. And me thinking that I wanted to maybe teach or do research, I went the doctoral route. So I went to a doctoral program in clinical psychology. A lot of people work, get some experience, but I just went right from one to the other. It's not good or bad. While I was in graduate school, they had us doing research, teaching, and doing clinical work. And so then that kind of led me towards more of a clinical role versus research or teaching after graduate school. I worked initially after graduate school in community mental health, saw children, adolescents, adults, all ages, really wide range of presenting concerns. And I worked there for a few years, and then after that, I was hired as the training director at Butler University at their counseling center. And I worked there for about 9 years as training director, and then became director. And that was back in 2009. So I've been at Butler since 2001, and I've been director since 2009. Currently, I primarily see students for therapy, run groups, and then being the director, I have administrative roles and supervision and training, which I really like, and it mixes up my day. And the other thing about being a mental health professional is not only are you making a difference, but there's a really wide variety of things you can do as a mental health professional. So teaching, research, supervision and training, clinical work, and I really just like the variety of that. I also do private practice on the side, and so again, there's lots of things you can do, especially if you have a doctoral degree in psychology. A lot of flexibility, and obviously I have the Willow Center as part of my part-time kind of private practice work outside of Butler, and I like that. I like, just the variety and the flexibility of the degree. There are a wide variety of jobs in mental health. That's why I really like the degree. It's so flexible. We have trainees at Butler every year, and I share this with them every year, like the long list of things that they can do with this degree. Either it's by setting, hospitals, community mental health centers, schools, private practice, VA. So there's all kinds of settings, and then there's, like I said, kind of different ways that you can spend even your days within those settings. You can, like I said, you can do more clinical work, maybe you want to do more administrative work. Almost half my time is probably training and supervision. I'd really like doing training and mentoring mental health professionals. So I get to do that as a fair amount of, in addition to clinical work. And right now there's a high need as well for mental health providers. So I think there's some job security if you're worried about, will I be able to find a job? Yeah, right now. In most places, they're looking for mental health professionals. The other kind of nice thing about the degree is it can be flexible in terms of your own style. Like some people really like the private practice, the flexibility. They're making their own schedule. They don't have to answer to a boss, like all of that. Some people like answering to a boss and like the structure and the consistent paycheck of like a 9-to-5 job. And, you can do either one. To learn about kind of what you want to do in psychology or different ways to get into this, I would say if you're high school, going into college, and this is what I did, I volunteered at an addictions place as an undergraduate, for example. So that just gets you in the door, gets you a feel for like, oh, this is what these people do, this is what it's like to be in this setting, because it could sound or look good on paper, but then when you're actually in the setting, it's like, oh, this isn't for me. Get a little bit of practical experience like that, and then also to get to graduate school as a high schooler and then undergraduate, I got some really good mentoring and advice from advisors early on about not only getting some practical experience, but making sure some people in the faculty in psychology, I got to know them beyond the classroom so that they could vouch for me to go to a graduate program. So I would definitely encourage people to involve themselves in a lab or go to office hours at least, or just try to develop more of a relationship with their professors. Being involved in psychology in that way, I think only helps too with then kind of next steps onto either a master's program or doctoral program. If you know you want to do clinical work, if you know you don't want to do a lot of teaching or upper administrative stuff, then you have the decision of like, as an undergraduate, you're thinking, that's 4 years now. Do I want to get a master's degree? That's 2 more years. Do I want to get a doctoral degree? That's at least 4 years. It's usually 5 plus a year internship. So that's usually a 5 or 6 year commitment. You usually do a doctoral degree if you know you want to do some research or teach or upper administrative stuff. It gives you some more flexibility. But if you know you want to do clinical work and you know you don't want to do those other things, the master's degree allows you to be a clinician and see, say that's your passion. Like, I just want to work with kids, or I just want to see adolescents or adults for therapy. And you know that, then there's no need to sign up for 5 or 6 years of school and all that debt and write a dissertation. There's no need for that. Like, get your master's degree, 2 years. You have to get some supervised experience after that, but you can go do all the settings I talked about. You can do the clinical work in any of those with a master's degree. Yeah, I think a common thread for people that work in mental health is definitely going back to wanting to impact people's lives and feel that kind of day-to-day. Like, again, I like teaching, and I liked research, but it didn't feel as immediate as like sitting down with someone and you have a session and that feels impactful. Or you're working with someone over the weeks and you see some change and they're improving their lives. There's also, I'll say, like an interpersonal probably preference versus like, oh, I want to just work in a cubicle by myself. Just leave me alone and work by myself. Most mental health professionals you don't have to be extroverted to be a mental health professional. I'm introverted, so, but you do have to have like an interpersonal kind of bent or like a desire to interact with people in that kind of intimate sort of way that I think a lot of, again, draws mental people to the mental health field for a lot of reasons, but I think that's another characteristic I would say kind of across the board. The impact for me that I hope to make is I get to do one-on-one therapy with people, which is really rewarding, but being the director of a mental health clinic, I feel like I have a broader impact, and also being a director of a training program. So every year we have 9 trainees come through and then they change over. So those are 9 kind of budding mental health professionals that I get to directly impact, bring them up and develop their skills. So to me, I kind of have the best of both worlds where I feel, again, in a position that I can have an impact with my individual clients, but it also feels very impactful for me to, again, just at the end of the day, like, okay, the clinic is running, and we're seeing all these students for therapy, and it's working, and I'm getting to train the next generation of clinicians.